Hey, Charles, I have a question for you.
Okay,
I don't think we're going to have a quorum today. I just got a message from Andrew that he is tied up at his previous commitment, and we only have 3 committee members at this point. We can still discuss the ordinances. We just can't make any motions. Is that correct?
yeah, you can't make any decisions, but you can certainly talk about whatever you want.
Okay, I just want to make sure
let me think about that for a minute. So, how many people are on the committee?
3.
There's only 3 people on the committee,
Yeah.
so I'm not even sure it's a proper sized committee. Okay, let's you can ask questions.
Okay.
If I need the ordinances, just give me a minute though.
Okay, I've got everything pulled up too.
Yeah, but I can put it on my screen here and it's easier for me.
Hi, Mark.
Hi. Good evening.
Good evening. So, Mark, just so you know, hold on. Andrew just sent me a message. He will most likely not be able to make tonight's meeting, so we don't have a quorum. But we can still discuss. We can at least take advantage of Charles being here. And it will get you caught up on the ordinances too, because you weren't a part of the editing with us.
Right.
Hi, Merlin.
Hi, how are you?
Doing good.
Sorry,
How about yourself?
Very good. Just getting all my video and everything set up.
So I don't know if you heard me letting Mark know. Our other committee member, Andrew, is most likely not going to be able to make tonight's meeting. He's on multiple different committees, and sometimes they interfere with our meetings. The other one is running late.
Yeah, not a problem.
So we don't have a quorum. We can't have an official meeting, but we at the very least can take advantage of Charles being here.
Sounds good. I'm sure he likes to hear that.
Yes.
Do we still start the meeting and everything as usual?
There's no meeting. We're not having a meeting
Separate.
because you don't have enough people to have a meeting. We're just talking.
We're just talking. Awesome. That's much more my speed anyway, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm the only one here who's actually worked on the ordinances. Hold on, let me organize my screen a little bit better here. Okay, so I've got the list of ordinances that Dr. Effiam had recommended. Oh, of course, and now I don't have Andrew's information. But hold on, I'm not properly organized here to be able to see you and go through this. Okay. So one of the first ones she has listed is section 6.05. And
JC, do you want to share your screen so that everyone is following along with where you are?
Why don't I try sharing the screen since I have.
Yes, my screen is very disorganized because I've got the original ordinances, I've got the rewrites.
Okay, what does everybody see?
I see page, my eyes are too old for this. That's that's what I see. I see page 4.
Okay.
And it's section 2.01.
Yeah,
Well,
you
we
may
don't
have
want
to
that.
zoom on your screen.
Yeah, let me hang on a second. That should be a little better. Is it legible?
It's not for me, but I've got another screen with the ordinances that I can read.
Can everybody else see it? Or should I try to make
You
it
may
bigger?
have to stop sharing and then reshare
Okay,
if you made some changes.
hang on a
If
second.
that helps.
Let's see if I can do that. And now we share again. Share button. Okay. Are we seeing page 21, I hope?
Yes, and I can read it too.
Okay. I put it on a bigger screen. I don't know why that matters, but.
Okay, yeah, there's 6.05.
Okay, 6.05.
Okay,
No
so
person shall beg or panhandle on Park District property. No person shall take up any collection or solicit or receive contributions of money or anything else of value on Park District property without having first obtained a permit therefore from the Park District.
okay, so just so you all know, Charles and I did have a chance to kind of talk about some of the stuff earlier this week. So that's the the ordinance as it stands. The changes that we are hoping to recommend is so that it would read soliciting, taking up collections, or receiving contributions of money or anything else of value on Park District property is only allowed once a permit to do so has been acquired through the Park District.
So what you're saying is you want to delete the first sentence?
Right.
Okay. I mean,
Um,
that's, the first sentence would probably be helpful to somebody who wanted to prosecute people for disorderly conduct to have it there. But there's no reason it has to be there. I don't care. It's up to the commissioners.
okay. Okay, so there's no legal reason for that to be in there. And it doesn't raise liability for the Park District having it be removed if they choose to do that?
If they want to do that, they could do that. I mean,
Okay. The next one is 6.20. And which one is that one?
let's see if I get the pages changed fast. Parades, public gatherings, and assemblies.
Let's see. This one was Natalie's. Can you scroll down a little bit to the next page for that one? I believe this one is just a matter of like what we talked about in terms of the permit or the reservation. Is that what you remember too, Aisha?
Yeah, I think this is one of those places for Mark and for Marlon. I don't know if you want to give the overview of the permit versus what's the other one? Reservation.
Reservation.
Right.
So Marlon, there's a lot of history that leads up into the equity work that you'll eventually be caught up on. Digging kind of deep. I don't know how much history you have about why the REDI committee was started in the first place, but there was a lot of voices coming to board meetings expressing concern over the Park District not treating particularly Black people in Evanston the same as they were treating other people. And one of the ordinances that had gotten kind of roped up in that was what has been now called like the barbecue policy. And it was the way it was written in the ordinances, it was unclear as to what people were supposed to do to be able to barbecue. And so that ended up being kind of misconstrued out in the community of whether or not you were allowed to and who that ordinance was actually being enforced upon. And then during that conversation, this idea of a permit versus reservation had come up. That this idea that a permit seems somewhat unobtainable to some people, but a reservation is more welcoming. So in general, in the ordinances, that's one of the things that we're kind of trying to tease out, the difference between when someone would need a permit and someone would need a reservation. And essentially what we landed on, and Charles and I spoke about this earlier this week, was I was using the term business. It seemed to make more sense to Charles when using the word corporation. But when an entity like that, wants to conduct business, they want to serve food, they want to do, something along the lines that would require the park district to make sure they either have a food license or, proper insurance to cover their business, that would be a permit process. Whereas opposed, if a citizen wanted to come and reserve park space for a barbecue or, Oakton Elementary School is not far away, their classes will come do end of the year gatherings. So the reservation is a way for you to communicate to the park district, you plan to be in the space and that space will be, set aside for you and you get priority over that space. So this is an example of one of the ordinances. We're assuming there are other ordinances like this that we'll need to tease out. We can talk a little bit more about that later. But that's
So,
what.
I'm sorry, I thought you were done. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say this is just an example of one of those ordinances where it's like the permit reservation piece.
So
No, thank you
I've
for
had,
explaining it.
I've had time to reflect on this ordinance a little bit, and I have concerns that if you make it a reservation as opposed to a permit, you're really making what we call an open forum, which basically is going to allow anybody to advocate whatever they want in any particular setting under the First Amendment. Whereas if you keep it as a permit, you're maintaining more control over the property. And just the park district has control over what can and can't happen there. So, I mean, I don't think the park district wants to have something where they have no control over the property and anybody who wants to come and have meetings and assemblies and advocate any position they want can constantly be doing that. So, I mean, again, it's not my decision, it's the commissioners, but I think they should be concerned about that. I think it makes sense to keep a limited forum here by keeping it in a permitted status. So, I mean, this is just, once you change one thing, you start implicating other things.
Right.
And if we open the door to anybody to just come, as long as space is available on a reservation system, then, they can come and they can be advocating for religions or advocating for political groups or advocating for or against a political issue, or they could come and advocate for the Cubs or the White Sox. And I think that if the mission of the parks is really not to provide an open space for people to come and present, whatever they want to present, I think the park district needs to maintain control or should maintain control over who can use the premises for what purpose. And I think the permit makes sense with regard to that. Now, remember, we're dealing with an abstract here because we don't really have people coming and asking to use the premises for a permit very often. And we don't really have people coming there and seeking to demonstrate for or against issues or something of that nature. But, these are issues that other towns have had, other villages have had, other park districts have had. And so I think it makes sense to maintain more control over the use of the parks by large groups. But the commissioners can do as they want. There's no prohibition on them from allowing that to happen.
What's the current language that's in the barbecue policy? Does it say reservation or does it say a permit?
It's reservation. It got switched to reservation. It's
Yeah.
all the way in the bottom. It's in a set of meeting minutes.
So I think what, Charles, to your point, reservation and permit needs to be clearly defined by the park district.
Well, let me just point out the barbecue,
Language that's used.
the barbecue policy is only certain designated areas. There's no designated areas in this. So any part of any park could theoretically be used.
Right, so that needs to be included. The park district needs to clearly define what a reservation is and what a permit is and what falls under those categories, so that people then know when they're trying to do anything on park district property, which lane what they're trying to do falls under. And that's
Well, and
part of, oh, go ahead. Go ahead, JC.
I was just going to say, in terms of this particular ordinance, I think that this requires a little bit more rewrite than we originally thought. Because, right, like I agree with what Charles is saying, right? Like it just can't be like an open, you can do whatever you want when you want sort of thing for, gatherings of that size. But then at the same time, this would mean that like all those classes at Oakton would have to go through the permit process. Right, so I think it's kind of up to the board how
Well,
they want to divvy this out.
I think that this is an educational exception in here.
Oh, did I miss that?
Yeah, I think the ordinance shall not apply to students going to and from school classes or participating in educational activities under the immediate direction and supervision of
Okay.
school authorities.
Okay, thank you, I had missed that.
This is a little bit different than a barbecue to me. I think it's, yeah, I suppose if you have a barbecue for 1,000 people, it'd be an issue. But if you're going to have a protest in the park or something of that nature, I think it's appropriate to seek a permit from I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, the park district wants to make sure if something like that is happening, that necessary support services are there. They have the ability to monitor it. It's a lot of stuff.
Well, and it's
Now,
been a
again,
while.
we're dealing with an abstract because I don't think this ever has really happened in the last few years.
I mean, as far as I know, it hasn't happened in my short time
Yeah.
at the park district. I also, if I remember correctly, I believe that in the barbecue policy, I'm looking for, oh, here it is.
There may be a limit.
There is a limit of 15 people, so it's consistent.
Yeah. So, I mean, to be consistent, this may be consistent with the barbecue policy as written then, because it talks about 15 or more people.
Exactly.
So, and less than 15 isn't really covered by it.
So then maybe this one is not so much about a rewrite, it's more about the clarification of the process.
Okay. I mean,
Aisha, does that sound more in line?
Yeah, and I think again, just going back to that point of people knowing the difference between if the park district is going to say that you can either have a reservation or a permit, people need to know what falls under both of those categories.
Natalie had made the comment about putting the hyperlinks directly in the ordinances. And then, hopefully, I forget where it is on the website that there's like the space to put in for like rentals and reserving, barbecue spots and all that. Maybe that could be a good place to put the explanation in of, what requires a permit, what that process looks like, and what requires a reservation and what that process looks like. And then also, having it available in paper at the park district too, for people who are just walking in.
so to me, that doesn't really sound like something that needs to be in the ordinance. It needs to really just be the policy that's applied at the park district.
Right, with the exception, right, because when they digitize the ordinances, the hyperlink, so you could, like, if you want to barbecue, you can, if you're looking at the ordinance, you can just click and it'll take you to the page. It's not actually changing the ordinances. It's just making it easier for people to get to the paperwork.
Yeah.
Okay, I feel pretty settled on that one. Does that
Okay.
sound good to everybody? Okay, let's see, the next one is 6.02. If I remember correctly. Oh, wait, where did I lose my rewrites? Oh no, that's not that one.
That's alcoholic liquors.
So yeah, so Charles and I talked about this one too. If I remember correctly, there's not, it's not legally necessary for the, no persons under the influence of alcohol, that part A to be in there. It also, if the park district is going to be having vendors selling alcohol, it contradicts itself. Like, how are you going to sell alcohol and have people not be under the influence? That was a conversation that we had.
Well, you can sell it, you just can't drink it, I guess. Yeah, I mean, frankly, I can understand why it would make sense to drop the paragraph A, because first of all, I don't know how you would figure out if somebody was under, I mean, obviously, sometimes you know someone's drunk, but if somebody has good buzz, are they allowed in or not? I don't know. And it really would conflict with B, which gives the park district the ability to give a permit for someone to sell alcoholic liquor. I mean, they don't have to, and they may decide not to. But
Okay. And then Marlon, also just a little bit of background for you on this. For as long as Brian has been the executive director, he has been a hard no on any alcohol on the premises, including when people rent space. You're not welcome to bring any alcohol. Whether or not that decision gets changed moving forward is part of the reason why we would leave this ordinance in there, because there was some discussion if the park district currently is not allowing that to happen, it doesn't feel right to essentially tell the public you can ask for a permit for this when permits aren't being given out to anybody. So there was some question initially if this whole thing should be removed. But then, you know, if in the future the park district wants to do something different, leaving this in there will allow that to happen.
well, you can also consider that if you want, if where there's not going to be any alcohol ever in the park, change B to just say no person shall sell, possess, drink, or use blah 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 on park district property. Period. I mean, if it's going to be a hard no, make it a hard no. And if it's not going to be a hard no, then allow for the possibility for permit.
Right. So I think with the changes coming, you know, with Marlon coming on and the new board, I think it's worth kind of letting this sit for now. And we're going to be reviewing the rest of the ordinances anyway. If this is something that we, you know, if the board wants to change moving forward, that can be done in the next, you know, round of edits. But just something to keep in mind. The summer concerts have become very popular. And I assume that the community would appreciate having some adult beverages there, if that was a possibility. But again, that's just not something that has happened as of yet.
Right. And I'm just, you know, familiarizing myself right now with, you know, whether it's ordinances or even the events that we have. And even
Right,
today, you
right.
know,
So
obviously, yeah.
it's not like
So-
you're going to be able to make a decision right now about what you're going to want to do moving forward.
So Marlon, you may have figured this out, but you kind of need to get a flavor for the place before you start making big changes.
Oh, of course. That's why I'm just a sponge right now.
That's
So
right.
that's why I'm just listening, paying attention, and you know, getting obviously a feel for how things work, how they have worked, how they're working now. You know, just getting more of a feel for that. So I mean, that's why I'm happy to be here and just listen and take it all in.
Okay. JC?
Yeah, I just wanted to add in there, you know, Ridgeville's small, but it's complicated. There's just so much going on. So yeah, it's a little bit of a learning curve. Okay, next ordinance was 6.11. I believe, if I remember correctly, this is the disorderly conduct one. Yes. This one was Andrew's, and I wish I would have asked him for his, because he had like a whole write-up that he did. Andrew did a really thorough job. He did a good amount of research. He is also on the Evanston chapter of the NAACP. So I think that he had some experience with ordinances like this in the past also. Our recommendation is that this whole thing just gets struck, that this whole thing just gets removed from the ordinance, particularly because of how this ordinance has historically and currently still gets used. against Black and brown people disproportionately. And then, of course, also, going back to the piece of if somebody's doing something they're not supposed to, the Evanston Police Department is going to handle it in whatever way that they think is appropriate, and our ordinance doesn't come into play anyway. So it goes back to the, the original question. Legally, does this have to be in here?
No.
Does it raise Park District liability having it in here?
No.
Okay.
It has no,
Aaron, that was there.
Oh, I knew Aaron's was.
it's here. It doesn't have to be here. It's not
No.
enforced in any way that I'm aware of.
I spoke to Aaron the other day, so I knew about that.
Okay. Fantastic.
I think it's really,
And then
I mean, I
the
know-
last
yeah.
one, because in Dr.
I
Effiam's
think
report, they're
it's
repeated.
touching that he made.
Right, we went through 0.05, 0.2. So the last one, the only edit to it is
Which paragraph?
it's 9.03.
Ooh, that's way far off. All right.
So one addition. I think this one is a little bit more just, making sure that the ordinances are reflecting the equity goals of the Park District. So under A, where it reads advantage or favor beyond that which is available to every other resident. My recommendation is that we add a statement similar to regardless of race, gender, ethnicity, sexual orientation, or religious beliefs. Just so that we're doubling down on that equity language. And then adding an E that says that every officer and employee shall perform their duties with impartiality and without prejudice or bias for the benefits of all residents of the Park District, and shall embrace our values as stated in the Ridgeville Park District Equity Statement.
You want to add that to political activity?
Oh, wait, no, that's not right.
Where did you want to add that?
I had it in E in my notes, but that's clearly not right. Financial interest, is that still 9.05?
I think so. I think it might make sense to go at
9.03.
the end of A, maybe.
Maybe it was at the end of A. Let me double check here. Where did I get lost in my?
It should be connected to A.
C, D. I think I meant to add it as an F
Okay.
so that it would be after everything else. Just, but if it would be better attached to A, I think that works too.
It's fine either way. But I think I don't know where you got the language from, and I'm not saying it's wrong, but I think it might make sense to look at the Cook County ordinance that's similar and make sure we're tracking the same language.
Okay.
My two concerns are this: there's no real legal concern here, but I don't want to leave out anybody and then have them be offended that they're not in there when they're supposed to be. And I don't really want to add in anybody that doesn't really track with the Cook County ordinance, because I don't want to then have another group come along and say, well, you put these guys in and they're not, put us in. I mean, at a certain point, we just got to deal with it. So my recommendation would be to take a look at the Cook County ordinance and use the exact same language.
Okay. I will do some research into that and find out what that is.
Okay. And
And
that
that's
should be a simple Google.
okay. That's everything we have. I mean, the other changes, I feel pretty confident are not like legal ramification in terms of changing, making it so it's non-gendered language. It even has at one point, it defines a person as a he or a she. But we do need to, once everything's digitized, we do need to go through everything again, because Dr. Arfiam did not go through everything. She just kind of pinpointed these ones that I think she kind of had her eye on already. And then, we might have more questions for you in the future.
Well, I don't think I'm going anywhere, so. I just want to look at those definitions because can't find them, but if it's digitized, then we can just click on something, be a lot easier.
Yes.
Do we know the timing?
I believe it is either really close or finished. I heard it was really close a few weeks ago. I think there's been a lot of time and attention towards bringing Marlon on board. So I don't know if either it just hasn't been communicated to me yet, or if it's been in pause. But I can check with Brian on that.
Yeah, I don't see where the he, she is, but that doesn't mean it's not here.
I'm also really excited to have the table of contents not be crooked.
Oh, that's the best part of this.
That's how, I mean, if you can't already tell by the typewriter text, it just tells you how old it is.
This is only 1989. It's not that old.
In the grand scheme of things, yes. Yes.
Yeah, I'm not finding the he, but whatever.
Okay. Well, Charles, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
No problem. I could help if I did. And
You
if I
did,
didn't,
yes.
don't tell anyone.
They might start expecting things from you.
I know. Marlon, good to meet you.
Yeah, pleasure. Absolute pleasure. Thanks for your time. Definitely.
No problem.
Yeah, I look forward to meeting you in person and having a chat.
Yeah. That'll be fine. Okay, so this is it. Next meeting is May 11th.
Is that
That's the next meeting of the Park District.
for the board? So
yeah, I think that will be the last one that can be conducted by Zoom.
Oh, that's right.
Barring some new disaster, but
yes, that is the next. I was going to talk to the committee about this. It doesn't make sense to me. I mean, we couldn't do anything in our meeting today anyway, and then I realized I didn't put for action on our agenda anyway, so we wouldn't have been able to officially put together a recommendation. But it also doesn't seem to make sense or be fair to bring all these changes to the new board. I think they need at least a month to get in. At the board report for May, I will catch everybody up and essentially tell them what our recommendations would be. But it seems like it's better to have these proposed changes go in on the June meeting anyway.
Is JC, are you looking at doing that and the basketball process, all of that in the same meeting?
Yes, that was the other thing that I had, is that this was going to be the last meeting that we were going to table the basketball stuff, because that needs to get up and running before June, right? Like that we've been tabling that for a long time.
Okay.
Charles, if you want to hang out, you're more than welcome.
no,
Marlon,
if you don't need me, I'm going to go.
Okay. Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Bye-bye.
Bye. Marlon and Mark, I just wanted to take this opportunity, and poor Julie, I guess you didn't even really need here to be taking minutes. I'm just now putting 2 and 2 together because we didn't really have a meeting.
Right. I was curious about that.
Yeah, no, none of this is official.
Right.
Mark and Marlon, I was curious if either one of you had any questions about either any of the ordinances, or, I don't know if this is a good opportunity to talk about some of the other stuff that the REDI committee is working on. Anything that you all wanted to get caught up on, or?
I'm actually good for right now. I've just been reading, the charter and things that Brian's been giving me, and hoping to get one-on-ones with you as well offline so we can talk a little bit more about it. But I mean, this has been great though, just being right now a fly on the wall and listening to, the concerns of the committee.
Excellent, thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I'll get back to your email later. Wednesday's perfect
Yeah, perfect.
for them time.
I have a similar feeling to Marlon. I'm really just starting to soak this up. So, I mean, the ordinances are a lot of legalese. I realize they're important, but they seem to be good changes.
We've been working on this for quite some time. This is like our first task that so Mark and Marlon, I don't even know if you know this. So when the committee was formed, we had an equity consultant by the name of Dr. Pat Effiam. Unfortunately, while she was working with us, she passed away. And she really put in full effort towards the end, and was very dedicated and determined. But it also left us with some loose ends that took us a little while to tie back. So we've been working on these amendments for the ordinances since the beginning of the committee. And it's really exciting to have, getting them actually moving in this process of getting them done. But it's also, I think, a little daunting to realize how much work there still is to do, and making sure that we get this right. So yeah, I'm excited that we're getting this done. Well, thank you all for being here today. I will throw together, I guess, a pretty informal board report for next month. And I will, be in touch with agendas and stuff for our May meeting.
Okay,
right.
goodbye.
JC, do
Yeah.
you want to resend
No.
the basketball stuff so it's also top of mind for people?
Yes, I will do that. I will send all the, right, because I think we're pretty close. We just have, I think it's some articles and a little bit of language that we need to fix.
Mhm.
And then it will get tossed, if it gets approved, that it'll get tossed back to, Marlon, do you know anything about the basketball piece? Is this?
No, not as of yet. No.
Okay, so just very, very quickly and briefly, there is, as Aisha helped us learn, this is not unique to Ridgeville, but in the summertime, there tends to be a lot of noise complaints around the basketball courts. So we are trying to look to be proactive this year and see what we can do to help make our space welcoming, how to educate our community on how they're viewing things, and what's the best way, to get all that information across.
Okay.
Well, thank you all so much. I appreciate you all coming tonight. I know it's, not quite a full meeting, but I feel like we got some good stuff done.
No.
Okay,
Yeah, it was
good
great
night.
seeing everyone. So thank you. Thanks again for having me.
Thanks for coming.
Of course. Have a great night. Thank you.
Thank
too.
you. Good night.
Good night.